Hello everybody, welcome to our series, My Amazing Story. Okay, so what is this series all about? Actually, in this series, we are going to invite different people from different backgrounds to share with us their amazing story, okay, which is to share with us their testimony. Okay, today we have a very special guest. Okay, she is someone very special to me when I was facing some problem, facing challenges in my uni. Really, she helps me a lot, and today is an honor to invite her, okay, to be with us and share with us her testimony. Okay, so let's welcome Edlyn.
Wow!
Hi Edlyn.
Hi everyone.
Okay, yeah, so Edlyn, maybe you can do a self-introduction. Maybe you can share with us your name, which church do you go to, your hobby. Yeah, share with us.
This one is like our CF days when towards the newcomers like that.
Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Edlyn. The church that I go to is Bangsar Gospel Center. Hobbies, right? I love to go shopping. I love to travel. And I also like to eat and sleep lah. I know people always like, no, sleeping is not a hobby, but to me, it is. So yeah. Oh, and where I work as well, right? I actually work as a tax consultant. So what I do is I help companies calculate how much tax they should be paying. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Alright, so for the next session, okay, I'm going to ask you a few questions, so you just answer them accordingly lah, okay? Yeah, so can you share with us your favorite Bible character?
Okay, can. Honestly, for me, it's God lah. Like, serious, I love God a lot. But I think in terms of like characters which are just human, I would say David, King David. Like, I think from his life story, right, you know, from when he killed Goliath until he ran away from Saul on the run until he become king, like throughout his whole story, I think it really shows a very beautiful image of the relationship and dynamic that a human can have with God. Like, you can see like through his story or his prayers, how he communicates with God. Like, he fears God and obeys him so much, but then at the same time he's also comfortable enough to like approach God and like tell him about his life and his worries and all that. Yeah, so from reading the Psalms that David wrote also, I think it really helped me in my own walk with God lah. Yeah, so I love David a lot.
Okay, I see. Okay, yeah, actually David is also one of my favorite characters too. Yeah, because actually he's a man after God's heart, right? Yeah. So yeah, we can learn a lot through David himself. Really. Okay, so let's move on to the second question. Alright. So is there someone that you would like to thank, you know, throughout the whole journey where you became a Christian?
Someone I would like to thank. I would have to say my parents, because they were the first people who brought me into Christianity in the first place. Like, I think before I was born, they probably already started to pray for me already. So yeah, I think even though they're not perfect and I'm also not perfect, but yeah, they really were a really good example to me on what it looks like to be a follower of Christ lah. Yeah.
Yeah, I really agree with what you say. Like, parents can bring a lot of impact on their children, especially for their faith also. Yeah, so yeah, that's very important. Okay, so the last question is, why do you want to become a Christian?
Ooh, this one is tough. Why I became a Christian? I think it's a choice that I made when I started to really read and study the Bible properly. And like, yeah, that was like many years ago when I made that choice to become a Christian and when I started taking the Bible seriously. And like, after all these years, like more than 10 years, like, to me, the Bible still stands as the ultimate, true, perfect word of God. Like, legit, there has not been any questions or doubts that I've had that the Bible has not been able to answer. Like, really, to me, the Bible is the answer to life, and so is Christianity lor. Yeah, and I want to share this. I think in 1 Corinthians 13 is the passage about love, talking about spiritual gifts and all that. So yeah, in 1 Corinthians 13 it says that everything else will cease. There's no gift that will not cease. But in verse 13 it says, but these 3 things remain, like these 3 greatest gifts will remain, which is faith, hope and love, and the greatest of these is love lah. Yeah, and to me it's only in Christianity. Like as far as I know, only Christianity has been able to offer me faith, hope and love. So yeah, that's why I decided to become a Christian, and it's also why I'm still a Christian today.
I see. Wow, amen to that, really. Yeah. So yeah, I really when I read 1 Corinthians, you know, the passage just now, actually it really touches my heart, you know, also. Yeah, especially the verse that says, you know, the greatest among all this is love. You know, without love, actually we are nothing also, right? Yeah, yes. So love is very important. Okay, so alright, so we are going to move on to the most exciting part, okay, which is our testimony sharing. Okay, so Edlyn, I will pass the time to you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so my testimony for today is on the topic of anxiety. So just sharing my personal experience with it lah. So what happened was that in 2020 there was this thing called COVID-19 and then because of COVID, okay, very sad dark times, okay, and because of COVID-19 there was this thing called MCO, and we weren't able to leave our house for 2 years, right? And I think MCO was a very hard time for a lot of people, and I think it will still like affect you until today, whatever you went through that time. So I hope you guys are all okay. But yeah, so during MCO, I think I was going through quite a hard time emotionally because of some other things that I was going through. A whole testimony, other testimony on its own. So yeah, I was like going through these things that kind of affected me emotionally. But the first few months of MCO, actually it was okay one. Like, you know, people were making the dalgona coffee, and then people were like, TikTok started to become a thing, right? People dance in their bedrooms. So yeah, quite an iconic time, like trendsetter time, you know. Yeah, but a few months into MCO, then I started to realize that something strange was happening to me mentally. Like out of nowhere, I would just suddenly have this like very strong feelings of anxiety, and it's not like the type where like a bit kanchong like that, but it's like legit deep, like from the gut. You just have this strong feeling like your brain is telling you that like SOS, oh no, you're in a bad shape, everything is out of control, you're gonna die, and like everything is very bad. Like just this, like I'm not an expert in anxiety and I'm still learning about it, but it's just this thing that hits you. It always starts off as like you start to feel a bit like jittery, agitated, restless, and then it will always escalate more and more. So yeah, for some reason, I think it's because from all those emotional things I was going through, there was no escape for me. I was just stuck in my small little condominium. So yeah, maybe that's what triggered the anxiety as well. Yeah, so I was having anxiety like on and off for the next few weeks. Yeah, so there was this one particular day where I was also having like some anxiety kind of thing, and I felt utterly terrible that day. But that day we had a CF is Christian Fellowship. Yeah, we had a CF committee meeting that day. I was part of the committee. Yeah, so I thought like, okay lah, I have to go for meeting because committee ma, cannot not go, you right, Leah? Yeah, so I went, and then I was like, okay, I'll be fine, I'll just sit here. But you know, like there's this thing that at the start of meetings, every chairperson will say one. They will always say this thing. So who would like to start us off with a word of prayer? And then you know, like Asian culture, it will always follow with like everyone shy, timid, very scared. Yeah, like classic. There's nowhere where this doesn't happen in Malaysia. Yeah, so I think among the people in that group, I was probably the most fearful at that time, because like in my head, I was already like very anxious. I wanted to like escape from my own body, that kind of thing. So I was really just like, no, there's no way you can call me today. I am really not in the right state of mind. Like imagine everyone bow their heads and close their eyes, and everyone is focusing on your voice, and I was already anxious. I was like, no, I cannot. But of course, the chairperson, of course, she called me. She was like, oh, what about Edlyn? Yeah, then I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot. But no choice, right? I had to unmute and then I had to pray. And the minute I tried to start talking, right, I think for some reason, because like, you know, the atmosphere then is like very scary, very tense, like please don't choose me, please don't choose me. And then like, you know, just that very tension, I don't know why, but my anxiety just escalated into like something like a mental breakdown, like a panic attack kind of thing. Yeah. So I was like, I tried to pray, but it was so bad. Like I tried to say like, dear God, but it took me so long. And when I was able to say it, my voice was like trembling and shaking so much. So what I did was I fake cough. I was like, dear God. Like I had to fake laugh. It's like fake cough so that people can't tell that I'm having a mental breakdown. Yeah, so it was like, okay, I tried to get through it, and I did like just say a simple one sentence prayer. Yeah, and then at the end it was fine. Like everyone was like, oh, you're coughing, I'm so sorry, it's okay. So yeah, that's the story. And that's not the story, sorry, that's the start of the story. So it looks like, you know, it's just a oopsie daisy, like a small little incident kind of thing. But actually for me, it turned out to be one of the most traumatic events of my life. I started reflecting on it like actually like this afternoon as I was preparing, and I think that because all my life, right, up to that moment, I think I always try to, I'm always a leader figure. I think like wherever I go, for some reason I always get chosen to be leader one. And I always try to Liang knows and then I always try to put up this very like charismatic, like I'm not, but I try to put on this very charismatic, very confident, capable personality. And this trend started since I was young until like uni days. Like I always think to myself that you are leader, like people entrust you and people look up to you, so you have to always be that capable, confident person. And my biggest fear was people realizing that, like people thinking like, hey, why this Edlyn having panic attack? Why is she shivering while talking? I thought she very brave, I thought she very strong. Turns out it's fake one, she just fake only. Like this was my biggest fear because of all the expectations and pressure that I put on myself. So because I almost exposed that I was having a mental breakdown in front of my fellow committee, that became like super traumatic for me for some reason. Yeah, and it was so bad to the point where, you know, after that one committee meeting, and then CF, we have meetings almost every day, one, like a Bible study committee meeting, CF meeting, department meeting, everything. Almost every day got meeting. And every single meeting that was church related or CF related or prayer related, like any meeting that I know confirm will have opening and closing prayer one, I would just be like let's say the meeting is at night. When I wake up in that morning, I will already start panicking because I will keep, like, I cannot help it, I will keep thinking to that traumatic time where I almost like just broke down in front of everyone. Like it's so bad. Imagine like everyone waiting for you to pray and then you just break down and cry. Like people, that's something that people won't forget, and I'm very scared to show weakness to people. So yeah, every single time there's a meeting coming up, I panic like crazy. And don't even mention like being in the meeting itself. Like when I'm in the meetings, right, I start getting all these like physical symptoms. Like my mouth is super dry, my body temperature rise until like fever like that. I start shaking, my heartbeat goes like crazy, I cannot breathe properly. What else? Yeah, and I'm very tired. Like I feel like I'm gonna bang sun like that. And I'm not sure if any of you out there also struggle with anxiety, but yeah, I believe these are some of the physical symptoms that you might experience. Yeah, so imagine, you know, like every single day, like when we have meetings, that's what I have to go through. And the only time I find peace is when the closing prayer is over and I'm like, okay, phew, they didn't call me, and I don't have to relive that trauma again. Yeah. So that's the story. And I think about, and the thing about anxiety, right, is that you feel like you cannot take it anymore and you just want a break from life because you physically and mentally cannot function, but life won't pause for you. Like, it still will continue and you still have to fulfill whatever expectation or responsibility that you're doing at the moment. So yeah, for the next 2 years, I struggled with this very bad anxiety, and because the trigger for me was prayer. Like, imagine how sad it was. Like, it really broke my heart that prayer is something that is so important to me, something that is literally how I connect with God. But I reached this point where prayer is a trigger for me that makes me that triggers trauma for me and gives me anxiety. Like, it was a very, very, very dark time for me. Yeah, and like the fact that my social pressure, my social fear got in the way of my relationship with God. Yeah, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was a very dark time for me, and for the 2 years I struggled with it. But because like I said, life doesn't stop, you have to go on. So for the past 2 years, like, people didn't notice that I was going through these things. I'm not sure if Liang, you noticed as well. I don't think so.
Yeah, actually I didn't notice it.
Yeah. A lot of people also say I look very steady, but on the inside, like, it's crazy. Like, there's this joke, right, that Edlyn always late to meeting because she's in the toilet. And like, people always make fun of me, and it's true, because every time before meeting, I'm always very fearful and very anxious that I need to go physically. Like, I legit need to go. So yeah, very, very bad. So that's my story with anxiety in summary. But here's the thing lah. I think now I'm better, and I really praise God for that. But when I look back on these times, these 2 years of the bad anxiety, right, I actually don't see a very dark, gloomy or sad past. And in fact, what I see is a very bright, very glorious, very beautiful image of God's sufficient grace for me. Because I think when you have anxiety, right, what your brain is trying to tell you is that you're going to fail. Like, the worst case scenario in your head is going to happen. Like, that's what anxiety will try to tell you. And over those 2 years, right, every time I go a meeting, I have these crazy things inside here, but there wasn't a single time at all that my fears actually materialized and I had another mental breakdown like the first one that time. Like, not a single time. Like, every time God always came through for me. And even with these crazy fears and like all these physical symptoms going on, I was able to do things like MC events, organize events, and I even went on to be the vice president and president for CF and lead the whole CF. Yeah, so I think that's a very amazing testimony that your fears really try to bring you down, but God's perfect love really can cast out fear. Yeah, and I think one of the biggest biggest ways that I overcame anxiety was prayer. Like, really pray. Like, prayer was a trigger. So it was a very not toxic. Is it right to say that it's a toxic relationship? Like, it's something that triggers my trauma from back then. But I couldn't. I just knew that I had to do it, and it's something that I'm still doing today. Like, no matter big or small, whatever I do, I must pray first, because I think anxiety is a very it comes from your self-consciousness. Like, it comes from the fear that I scared of what people think of me. I scared I look stupid in front of people. I scared I let people down. Like, I think a lot of anxiety roots from a lot of fear about yourself. So I think just a reminder for anyone out there, because I think anxiety can also happen like in smaller scales as well, if it's not that bad. It shouldn't be about us in the first place lah, because I think just like all of creation, like the clouds, the stars, the sky, everything was made to glorify God, and we as God's creation also are really just made solely for worship. And I think that's why when we are so focused on ourselves, I feel like that's why our system will like go crazy a bit, because we're not doing our actual purpose. So yeah, I think one of the things that I did was I really prayed so that whatever I do, whether I drink water or whether I wake up or like whatever, my mind is always fixated on God and not myself. And I think that has been one of the things that really helped me. So yeah, I think I talk a lot. So in closing, I just really want to thank God that He, like through this, although it was a traumatic experience that gave me like 2 years of pain, and I still have anxiety, of course, I still struggle with it on an on and off basis, but I really thank God for this traumatic incident, because it stripped away my pride and my self-reliance on my own abilities. Like just now I mentioned, you know, I always think that, yeah, Edlyn, you're capable, you're confident, all these things you can do, you're capable. It's always you have the ability. And I really thank God that He really stripped away that pride from me, and that because like you see like anxiety come out, and then the whole thing, like the whole tough front that I put up just like break down already, like just vanish. So I'm glad that that happened, because now I no longer rely on my own strength, and instead I rely from the strength of the Lord, which is the same power that created you and I, Liang, the same power that created the universe. That's what I depend on every day, and I've never felt so free, so empowered, and so happy in my life. So anxiety is a very painful thing, and I really empathize with anyone going through it. But maybe it could be God's way of saying like, hey, maybe something is wrong in your life, and maybe there's something that you should check out in your life. So yeah, I think that's all for my testimony lah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Edlyn, for sharing with us this, you know, this whole all of this story, you know. Yeah, and after listening to your testimony, actually I feel like anxiety is a real thing, you know. A lot of people out there, they face anxiety, but a lot of times when they told us, maybe we are their friend or something like that, and then we will say that, oh yeah, nothing lah, you know. We just didn't really emphasize on it. Yeah, and we didn't really like put focus to their anxiety, but because we are not them, we do not know the pain of going through it. Yeah, and what I really learned from your testimony is that, you know, like what you said just now, we shouldn't really depend on ourselves. We shouldn't put focus, okay, on ourselves, but always focus on the creator of the whole world, which is our God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so now we will go to the conclusion part. Okay, so Edlyn, do you want to share with us some words of encouragement? Or maybe you can use a Bible verse to do a summary, something like that.
Good idea. Yes, I think I would like to close with a verse from Lamentations chapter 3 verse 19 to 24. Yeah, I'll read it for you guys. Hold on. Okay, it says, I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. Like, I well remember them, the pain and everything. Sorry, I add a bit of my own narration, okay? And my soul is downcast within me. Like, yeah, but yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope that because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. And I think with anxiety, what it makes you feel is that it's like this fire, this force which is consuming you and like stripping away your ability to go through daily life. But because of the Lord's great love, we are actually not consumed despite what our minds are telling us. For His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. And I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. Therefore, I will wait for Him, even if it takes 2 years of crazy anxiety. So yeah, that's my closing.
Thank you so much, Edlyn, for sharing with us your testimony and for saying yes for this interview.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really hope that Edlyn's story can motivate a lot of people out there, you know, especially for those who are battling with anxiety. Yeah, so yeah, thank you all of you for watching this video. Okay, so if you found this video helpful, no matter in what ways, feel free to give a like, subscribe, and also share with your friend. Okay, and always remember that God has His own amazing story for you. Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you.
这个月的主题经文诗篇119篇105节，你的话是我脚前的灯，是我路上的光。